A lovely Monday morning. Much obliged to have you join me on yet another exciting edition of the program TMI. My name is Sonny Duke Okosun. Of course, a few days ago, 43 ministers were, ministerial lists were actually sent to the National Assembly for screening. They have been screened. They are now minister designate. We're waiting for their inauguration, and as well as the portfolios that they would be given to see how they can support Mr. President to drive the country in the direction it will go. Questions have come up in the last couple of days as to the criteria used for these new ministers to emerge. And another major talking point is that despite the promise made by Mr. President of ensuring that he gets people that he's very acquainted with into his government, people expected that these new ministerial appointees will be technocrats. A greater percentage of them will be technocrats, just to ensure that we look at how the economy is with fast-track development and a lot of that. But it looks like all we have are politicians. 19 of them, 14 of them returned, they've said before, but they've gotten the nod to continue to serve, and then 24 others are back in the saddle with the new ones, just to help to change the status quo, change the narratives about the economy, about our politics, about our policies. And let me thank very especially our panelists now. Let me appreciate the presence of Chief Patrick Osage Eholo, President and founder, One Love Foundation. Comrade, many thanks for joining us on the program.
Thank you. It's a pleasure having me. Thank you, viewers.
I also have with us in the studio Barrister Nusa Adams, is a lawyer, obviously, and also a politician. Many thanks for joining us, Barrister Nusa Adams.
Good morning, and good morning, Nigerians.
We expect Professor Tony Ijewere and Barrister Jimmy Osegede to join this conversation. They will be joining us on the other half of the program. So, gentlemen, what came to your mind when, for example, in speaking with the National Assembly, Mr. President said, I will appoint those that I'm acquainted with. And then looking at the ministers that took charge of the affairs of government under his leadership in his first tenure, we recall very vividly that his wife said her husband appointed a lot of people that he didn't know. As a matter of fact, that the husband knew were part of the campaigns, and all the inner workings never got the ministerial slot. As a matter of fact, there were strangers that have hijacked the husband's government. Now here we are, Mr. President saying he will only appoint those he's acquainted with. It looks like it's all politics, and there is no intention for technocrats to come on board. Let me start with you, Chief Osage Eholo.
Well, thank you for having me, and I thank viewers for watching. First of all, it has to be about Nigerians, and I think Mr. President is not thinking about Nigerians. He's thinking about his inner caucus or his cabinet. And given the fact that the minister has been inaugurated, but let me quickly say this to the audience, there was a say, right? And a robbery were going on, and unfortunately, within the space of that robbery, an ex-robber was also being robbed, and the guy said, hey, gentlemen, I was one of you, and I'm an armed robber before. And the armed people said, were you? He said, yes. He said, take a bow and leave. So that's exactly what happened today with these, ministers' appointments. All just went there and took a bow and leave. No one were questions. A lot of them has no integrity. Most of them are morally bankrupt. Most of them were ex-governors. Most of them bankrupt their states. Most of them were not even fit to be a council chairman in the first case. So the question is that, is Buhari really fighting corruption? Did Buhari really mean well for this country? Or is all about Mr. President agenda? That's the question. Because those who are going to be for him, those who are going to be for his own agenda, is so those he's collectively appointing to be part of his ministerial list. It's not about Nigeria the way I say it. It's about Mr. Buhari, because everything that he has promised this country, he failed in all ramifications. He failed.
That those who will disagree with you on the opinion that everything that he promised Nigerians that he failed. That those who would disagree with you. So this is probably your subjective
opinion.
It's
a subject of debate. Mr. Buhari said, I'm going to fight corruption. You say fight corruption? Well, you have people who were under the watch of EFCC, people who were ready to be tried. Nigeria was excited that these people are finally going to jail and pay the price of what they did to us. And these are people Buhari has appointed as ministers. I mean, come on now, let's face the fact. I know that people have their own opinion. I also have my opinion. But the general opinion is that Mr. President is destroying this country. He promised us he's going to pay us stipends, more like welfare. If you are not working, he pay you 5,000. He never paid to me. He promised that we're going to have free lunch in school to encourage people. He never did that. He promised that he's going to get rid of the Boko Haram. He never did that. He promised that he's going to improve in our electricity. As a matter of fact, he dropped. He promised that it's going to be all transparent. And he has people like Amechi, he has people like our brother who was from this state, who becomes the national chairman of APC. I mean, if you are fighting corruption, you must fight it from your house. You must prove a point that, yes, you are committed to fight this corruption. Today you have extrajudicial killing. Today you have a situation when I was stuck yesterday in the traffic for more than 4 hours coming from Benin to Lagos. Where is the Minister of Transport? And the same people were reappointed again. It's the same country that you are budgeting money for, you call it water resources. What loss did you have? Water in your compound. Everybody use borehole. Where's the money going to? Okay. It's a country where you have the Minister of Aviation, where Nigeria have no single plane to fly. Mr. President promised us that he will never use any of the fleet. He's going to commercialize it so Nigeria can have money. Today, we have a hospital today in my own state that were commissioned by Mr. President. And today, nobody have ever attended that hospital. I mean, that is ironic.
Okay, let me pause you there, Mr. Adams. Yeah. Would you subscribe to the thinking that politics overwhelmed policies in the choice of new ministers?
Well, thank you very much. You see, let us look at it this way. We are in a democracy. We are in a party politics. The president and the government in power were thrown up via party system, and you don't expect the president to operate outside the wings or outside the confines, generally speaking, of his political party that brought him up for nomination and eventual election to the office of the president. Presidency of Nigeria. But the point I want to make is, if you want to satisfy Nigerians, the end is the aspiration and expectations of Nigerians. You must look beyond your party affiliation and party affinity to be able to select a crack team, an economic team, a team that will deliver and that will help you to drive
and actualize the manifesto as entrenched in your party programs. But if you must insist that all those that we should feature in the governance of this country must be people who are of the same political stock or affiliation with you, then you must be able to look at it critically as to pick the people that you know that can deliver on the promises. But from what I'm seeing, the president has made it as part of his policy trust that he was going to change from what he used to be this time around. He didn't hide, he didn't pretend about it, that he was going to send or appoint people into positions that he is familiar with. And that is to say that he's not interested in bringing experts from outside the confines of his political party, because he has further strengthened the fact that he wants to operate with those he is familiar and used to in the party by consistently holding meetings with the National Working Committee of his political party. After the second term election, he has met, I think, thrice or 4 times now with members of the National Working Committee of his party, the APC. That is to show or to tell us that he's going to be more partisan in his approach to issues. But he forgot to get to understand that, look, we are talking of survival and stability of the economy and the nation, as it were. Because if you don't bring in experts, if you don't bring in technocrats, if you don't bring in seasoned administrators that are conversant with the ministry or the department they are assigned to take charge of, you are going to have the very wrong peg in the very wrong hole. But what we are canvassing, which has been our age-long demand, so to say, has been that, look, when the president is going to send nominees to the National Assembly for screening, for God's sake, let there be portfolio attached to those nominees, so that the senators can look at you eyeball to eyeball and question you, demand the capability and capacity to discharge in that very particular ministry
okay.
or department.
Okay.
That was why we were canvassing for rejigging or taking a second look at the Constitution. Because the way the Constitution, the extent provision of the Constitution now, give the president a leverage to with or without sending a nominee with a portfolio to the National Assembly. If you have a nominee that is sent to the National Assembly for screening and his portfolio is attached to that position for which he is appointed, the senators or the Senate cannot look at him and say, yes, you are an expert in this field, you can do this job. But look at it. By the time you send a legal practitioner to go and be a head of a ministry like Ministry of Works, somebody who don't even know what it is, you cannot differentiate between a space road and a curve road. Or you send somebody that don't even know what it means to generate electricity, to transmit and to distribute. You send him to Ministry of Power, to one of our that ministry. You'll be sending somebody totally to a very strange field, a very strange land. That is why you see Obasanjo succeeded, because he went outside the shores of this country to source for technocrats, people that command or that enjoy international respect and recognition. And he was able to, before he came in, the country was more of a pariah nation, but he was able to interact, was able to bring Nigeria back solidly to the Committee of Nations. He was able to write off so many of our external debts, because when those people were talking to our external creditors, they were listening to them, because these are experts that have international repute and recognition, respect. But it's like Buhari doesn't seem to understand the dynamics and the problem we are faced with in this country, or probably his handlers seems not to be telling him how to solve the myriad of problems we are confronted with. If not, I would have expected him by now to know that the state we are in this country, we are faced with a problem where experts must be allowed to take charge of wherever responsibility they are assigned to overlook. Take charge in the sense that, yes, they will know where they are going to and how to go about handling the problems, because virtually every aspect of our life, economically, socially, morally, name it, the country is confronted with myriad of problems that we are drifting towards the precipice. That is why we keep advising this government. Please look beyond political affinity and affiliation. Please look beyond whatever you think will give you victory in 2023, because that is what all the calculations of the president and his handlers now is what will consolidate the party. But in all, it is within the powers, it is within the constitutional powers
of the president
to appoint anybody he chooses to appoint.
Okay.
But whether how far that one can take us as a nation is what we can say now.
Okay, if you just joined us, it's the TMI Monday. We have the due of Tony Ijori, Professor of Business Administration, Public Affairs Commentator, joining us. Prof, many thanks for coming on the program. As well as Barrister Pastor Jimmy Osagede, is a politician and also a legal practitioner, public affairs commentator. Barrister Jimmy Osagede, many thanks for joining us on the program. Okay, let me continue with the panelists we started with earlier. Now, in the choice of ministers, some say the interplay of godfathers in Abuja and then those in the home states also contributed to the names that eventually made the ministerial nominees, and then eventually they were screened. How do you see that as a factor in the choices made? So rather than maybe blame Mr. President, these godfathers, both in Abuja and then in the home states, should also be blamed. What do you make of this?
Well, you know, I think I agree with you totally, but the issue you must look at it properly is that as a country, we must not encourage failure. Rather, you know. Take example for America, from London, England, or any other part of the Western country. When you have issue with the police, or you have issue in the court, or you are currently under investigation, no one will clear you. That's one thing for sure. But I can tell you categorically, as I speak with you on this panel, that minister nominee here, one of Clement Agba, I have a case with him in court to explain to us as citizens what's happening with the Benin water storm. 30 billion was borrowed under the detriment of those citizens. You know, and surprisingly, we have so many intelligent, bright people. I'm not saying he's not intelligent or bright. I'm not undermining him. We haven't got explanation yet of what happened with the 30 billion that were borrowed.
Should he be the one explaining that, or it was the person who was in charge of the state?
He should be the one, because he was a commissioner then.
Yes.
And besides that, his godfather, Adam Oshomole, was also a governor then.
Yes.
There's the two of them. And even the present governor today, Obaseki, was a technocrat. He was the one that facilitated the law for them. So how dare would a man like that would be nominated as a minister?
Now, just a moment. Now, if you said a while ago,
yes,
that, all the promises made by President Muhammadu Buhari before he came into power, that he has not performed well. You didn't talk about the respective ministers who had sway, particularly within his first tenure, in terms of delivering on this point. So the point I'm making is that we should look at the leader, the one who took charge, not the one who was appointed, because the one who was appointed is answerable to the leader. So the person who should take that responsibility, in my opinion, should be the one who was in charge. But the point I wanted you to focus on, comrade, is...
No, Petro.
Okay, Petro.
No, I'm not a comrade.
Let's get the point straight. The point I want you to focus on is that what are your thoughts in the interplay of forces, Abuja and home states, in terms of throwing up these people that have become minister designated? I want you to stay on that track.
It's complicated. Okay?
Yes.
It's more like a two-headed sword. It's what they call a catch-22. Okay. First of all, 80% of the senators we have there that will clear the candidates were not there because they were voted for. They were, listen very carefully to my explanation, they were there because they were imposed on their people. Some were there because they subvert the will of the people. Some of them were there because they robbed us of our votes. Some were there because the INEC and the police collaborated with them to survive the will of the people. So, get what I'm saying, okay? If they were there by merit, they would know how to clear respective candidates who want to be a minister. But because most of them know they don't know what they're doing. I'm not saying all of them. Most of them, without apology, they don't know what they're doing. So when the state now impose, for example, take our own case of Honorable Minister now, Clement Agba. I mean, we have the Adolites who knows that a lot of people are homeless today because of the rain. A lot of people as quarters today because of the rain. And we have these massive projects that they borrowed 30 billion. And even as we speak, the present governor today was also part of the team, economic team. As a matter of fact, he was the one heading it. Today, nothing has been done. And I personally took Oshomole to court for explanation. I took Clement Agban to court for explanation. And a date has been set. And the Senate undermined that and cleared the candidate because of godfatherism. That's preposterous. Okay. That is wrong.
Okay, let me pause you there. Professor Tony Jiwuri, I'd like to get you involved at this point, which is that the thinking is politics overwhelmed policies in terms of choice of personnel or individuals as ministerial nominees and now ministerial designator. I'd like to get your thoughts along those lines, and how do you think it will impact on governance?
You see, my brother Duke, I think to solve a problem, you have to go to the root of that problem. You see, when a government comes into power, you ought to have an agenda. The government ought to know that it's the Nigerian project we are looking at, and not individual projects, not party projects, you know. And if they focus on that, then they will get their national priority right. You see, if a government comes to power, you ought to x-ray what are the problems, you know, the nitty-gritty problems of this country, or what are the citizens yearning for? Because what's the essence of democracy? It says government by the people for the people. So when you come into a government like that, you have to focus on what are the top needs of the citizens. You know, what are those problems you want to attack? What are those problems you want to address? You know, so in view of that, you set up a policy. And when you set up a policy, then you get individuals, men and women, to drive such policies, you know, so that at the end of the day, such policies will filter down, you know, to the people who are yearning for better life, who are yearning for dividends of democracy. You know, when you take it up from there, you see, the government will hardly make a mistake. You see, and that raises the question of leadership. You know, if a good leader should be focused, should know what he wants, should have a mission and a vision. And if he has that in mind, he should also get people who can drive such mission and vision. You know, again, for the interest of who? The people, the citizens. But that is, you know, that is not playing out here. And that is why we are having mirage of problems. You know, like my barrister friend said, you know, they ought to attach the portfolio to the various individuals. They said that they've appointed, or they've appointed as minister, if you like. And by the time they get to Senate should be, you know, Senate is made up of a mixture of experts from various fields and what have you, you know, or they also have committees that can focus on a particular individual. Say, hey, you say you are going to be minister for mines and power. Now we have power that is not working, and Nigerians are not there. So how are you going to address this problem? So there's a kind of what? A focus. And when there's a focus, then the problems are easily addressed. Then the Senate can now say, oh, in view of the explanation you are giving, I don't think you are good enough, you know, to head that ministry. And therefore they can drop him. But what we are seeing these days is rubber stamp. They just go or take a bow and all that. And we know, in fact, the president has indirectly confessed that he's going to do better this time. If he says he's going to do better this time, it means the previous 4 years, you know, was wasted. There was a problem.
That first year could have been good, but this is better. Yes. That 4 years could have been good, but he's hoping that this will be better.
That's your assertion.
I'm saying that could be the president's thinking.
No, you are speculating. Because the truth of the matter is that Nigerians have been hearing, Nigerians have been complaining generally, so it's not something anybody can. And he's aware. He's aware that you know, the first 4 years was not good enough, and perhaps that is why he's saying this next 4 years is going to do better. So I think if there's a focus in terms of who is there, who is running what ministry, and the Senate takes the person up genuinely, you know, and then I think things will be better. But in view of what we are seeing right now, how come 14 people, former minister from the previous administration, they are now back? And it's on record that majority of them did not perform. So which means the administration have not learned any lesson. They have not learned any lesson. It's like saying business as usual. And I don't see anything coming out positive in this, because the same people that are still running the government. And why? Because if you look at the political background where they are coming from, it's based on godfatherism. You know, people have been lobbying, some people travel to London, go and have special meetings and all that, you know, so that their candidates will be considered. But you see, is that the Nigerian project? I think that is where government is missing the whole thing. They are looking at it as party, individual interest, instead of Nigeria interest. And as long as they continue to look at it from the party perspective, I don't think we are moving anywhere.
If you just join us, you're on to TMI Monday. Just to emphasize again, whatever it's said here by panelists here are entirely the views of those saying them. They're never the views of the station. And we always recommend, in line with extant laws and rules of engagement, that we avoid names calling, because those whose names are mentioned on a live program like this, they can't be here to be able to respond to some of those issues. So we just want our panelists to factor that into their expressions, conversations in the course of this discussion. Let me come to Barrister Jimmy Osagede. Now, when all of these issues came to the fore, particularly with the selection of the ministers, the screening, and where we are today, what major part of this whole process touched you in terms of making you to think that, well, perhaps politics is the order of the day as far as this process is concerned?
Thank you very much. First, I want to say that it's unfortunate that in the Committee of Nations, while other countries are forging ahead, Nigeria is taking steps backwards. It's a pity that the so-called screening, you know, went the way we observe it. When you talk about screening, you are looking at the resume of of the candidates that have been submitted for possible ministerial appointments. You are looking at their capability, and you look at their antecedents. So when you have such a system where you just come and 1 or 2, 3 questions, you are off, and they say take a bow. You see, if the Senate, for instance, as they say that they have a tradition for those who have been in the Senate before, as a mark of respect, that when you come, you take a bow. When they took the first bow 4 years ago, things were different from 4 years now, and you are still taking the same bow. I think the summary of what happened in the screening, was captured by Senator Dino Melaye's statement, that paradoxical statement he made, that it was a beautiful nonsense. You can't have 43 people screen, and none of them, is found wanting. It's on record that a lot of them who have cases with EFCC, or who had cases with EFCC when they were in the opposition party, and now they are in the ruling party, they are not questioned at all. So all these, the influence of politics in the selection of these ministers overweighs the essence of, of the whole exercise. As a president, let me tell you, there was a time in, I think, around 1982 or 83, in Taiwan, little Taiwan, 9 members of the cabinet were PhD holders, and they were PhD in technological areas. And out of the 9, some of them were inventors. So here in Nigeria, when you have a pack of people, you are just bringing them to bear the name, and at the end of 4 years, nobody is asking them any question. It's unfortunate. I believe very strongly that the exercise should be, reviewed and revisited. First and foremost, like the other panelists have said, attach portfolios to the names, so you can grade them. You see what happened when the now CJN of Nigeria, Tanko, appeared before the Senate. Because the senators knew that he was being screened to become the Chief Justice of Nigeria, he was asked some questions. And you see how, what happened when he was asked to talk about technicality in judgment of the Supreme Court. You see what happened. So you are able to
tell us what happened. What happened?
Well, with due respect to the CJ, he went to town shopping, and lawyers are aware that up to now he has not been able to answer the question. So in a case where all those who go to the Senate, must get to their position, even when the Senate rejects them, like Magu, who is still there, the Senate rejected him as chairman of EFCC. He's still there. So what are we talking about? Well, I'm not surprised, because when you have a leadership, with due respect to those who are at the helm of affairs, in present day Nigeria and in modern times, you need a leader that has the moral capacity, the intellectual capacity. So if you have a leader that does not have the intellectual capacity, it is a prof, and you put a school set holder to be the head of his department. It's going to be a yes man. That's exactly what we are having now in Nigeria. So things are not working the way they are supposed to work out. That is why, although the man who was there for 4 years was Minister for Mines, Steel and Power.
Yes.
When I was growing up as a young boy, there was nothing like power outage in Nigeria. The days of Electric Corporation of Nigeria, ECN, there was nothing like that. Now the infrastructures have expanded, population has has grown, and what you are giving is still the same thing. You were there for 4 years, and things did not improve. You are back on the list, and you have been screened. So what are we talking about? So there's a lot of bottle of anger in the hearts of Nigerians. It's just as if, okay, well, if this is going to be the way to go, well, let us just go, because nobody is listening to us.
Okay.
Even the people we are to criticize, they don't obey judgment of the court. So it's terrible.
Let me proceed there, President Adams. Yeah, you made a point earlier before last two panelists joined us that this is just about 2023, and I'm wondering, why do politicians always think about the next election, even when the first mandate given to them has not been used to impact, improve, and transform the lives of the people?
Well, thank you very much. You see, is the situation we find ourselves in this country. Everything is virtually politicized. The way we even breathe the free air is politicized. That's it. We find ourselves virtually everything is politicized. The focal point, we have all agreed, is general consensus among us here, and that is it in Nigeria. Nigeria have reached a consensus that this country is not moving forward because we attach too much importance, credence to party affiliation and party affinity. Everything is how to consolidate and hold on to power. Is how do I retain this seat? How do I retain this position? How do I consolidate on my grip on this position? And whatever calculation, whatever permutation is woven around this whole ambition. And that is why in Nigeria we don't celebrate merit, we don't celebrate people who have achieved and can keep achieving for us, so as to get out of this mood we find ourselves, because most of them or some of them are not political gladiators. If you look at the list of the ministerial nominees that were sent to the Senate, the first batch, the second batch that we screened or said that we screened, you will look at it. It was selected based on how they can constitute themselves into strong, effective oppositions in their various states in preparation for the next election. That is why we keep advising this government that, look, if you are not careful, you are going to have ministers that will go to their various states and be competing and challenging the authorities of the governors.
It's already happening.
And that is what is playing out. That's what is going to play out. And eventually, it's going to crumble or drag back the capacity and ability of those ministers to perform in their various ministries, because the only consideration with which they were sent in the first place is because of their political affiliation and political strength and loyalty in their various states. So it is not for the Nigeria project to survive. It is not for them to go there and deliver as promised, because if you look at the manifesto of virtually all the political parties, so beautiful, straight, you see, well captured, captivating and interesting. But when it gets to implementation, that is where we have the problem. There is no political party, if you look at APC manifesto today, it's so beautiful. The paperwork are so good and fine, as if with this implementation, we end up in Eldorado. But I can assure you, with the method of selection, screening, and the designated ministers we have now, Nigeria is going to continue to drift toward the precipice. But be that as it may, like I said, this whole thing is centered around our legal framework. That is why we are advocating very strongly, and we have taken this period to say it, that we need to review the constitution as to make it mandatory for ministerial nominees, like we have all agreed here. They are sent portfolio before they are sent for screening. Because if you look at it, those who have been screened now are either they lost out as senators in their states, or those who lost out as gubernatorial candidates of their party in their states.
So the ministerial nominees,
these are political
compensation.
And the only reason why they were so nominated, yes, because their party and the president just felt, okay, we need to compensate these people, so to allow it to recoup. And they are under investigation. To allow it to recoup whatever they have spent in the cost of their failed elections. So you see the concentration, you see the basis. So the foundation is already faulty, and whatever is built on the foundation surely will crumble. So my only sorry is just for Nigerians that we bear the brunt, because eventually nothing is going to move forward with this crop of nominees we have. That I can tell you, take it to bank, it will not fail.
Okay. Let's just look at the flip side, which is that cases are bound where people found themselves in certain positions that by educational background and all of that, we could say they are not qualified to occupy. But they got to such positions and they performed creditably well. So what is now the basis of the argument that so long as these ministerial nominees or designate portfolios were not assigned to them, it means automatic failure or inability to perform? So do they correlate? Let me start with you.
Yeah, among these 14 failures that just came back, now you tell me in the last 4 years, what did they do? Nigeria is the only one that reward failures. I mean, you just answered that question. And let me put it back again. Why would you, because of political godfatherism, have a native doctor in this 20 millennial year as a Minister of Science and Technology? Because he's a native doctor, consulting some ancestors? Is that how it works? No, it shouldn't be like that. It shouldn't at all. Why would you get somebody who has read religion in school to become the Minister of Agriculture? It doesn't work like that. Listen, forever we do here, history will tell, and history will judge us, okay? Take example for our state now. You have members of the House of Assembly that have not been sworn in, and these people are from various constituencies. They were duly elected, and today they've not been sworn in. And those who have been sworn in have not been given the role to perform for us, to give us the dividends of democracy. Does it work like that in other countries? No, it doesn't work. What I'm saying is that those who are in the fence should leave the fence. God, Nigeria belongs to all of us all. You understand? Whether we say something, we do something, or we do nothing, we are going to die. Why is people very scared to come out and say what is right and do what is right? Fella, may so rest to be said, teacher don't teach me nonsense. It makes a lot. They brought democracy for us. They didn't tell us how it's going to play. Yes, some people inaugurated 9 people, 8 people. Yes, it became functionable. And yes, the ring road was moved to the government house. And today, situation repeats itself again because they were taught by their master. They replay it again and they are saying, it's impossible, heaven will fall. Let me tell you something, heaven will not fall. What would the masses who voted and said, this is our governor, we are with you, heaven will not fall. But people are too scared because in Nigeria, truly speaking, there's no government. I'm telling you that. I'm telling you, this is not about showing, about revolution. I'm not saying that. What is governance? What is government? What do they give you? They give you electricity. They give you water. They give you school. They give you security.
Roads.
They give you medical. Now you tell me now, in sincerity, what has your government given to you as of today? And to call them government. Tell me, please. Because I have children. I'm responsible for their medical, responsible for their school, responsible for their maintenance, responsible for their security. I provide it to them. So they have a right to question me as a father. Dad, why are things not working? And the same right we have as a citizen to question the government because they are parents after our biological parents. I'll leave it to the professor. He can tell us better.
All right, Prof. Yes, it looks like it looks like a debating session. Sort of, yeah.
It makes it more interesting. You see, the basic fact is that it's nothing. It's like a woman that is pregnant and you say has not met a man in her life. It's funny.
Impossible.
The point is this: everybody is familiar with the problem of this country. So we'll be massaging the real facts if we say, well, let's economize what is going on among Nigerians. It's all over the whole place, and people are complaining. Is it because they cannot come out like is this show to come and talk, and therefore that man is now a deviant? Is now you see, Nigerians were happy, but you see, if you go and protest like a civilized in the civilized world we do, like people in civilized world we do, the guns are already pointed at you. You should be ready to die, you know. And so, if we say, talking more seriously, if we say we are copying democracy from advanced nations, why can't we copy rights? You know, because democracy is led seriously by the rule of law. It's what guides democracy. I mean, the lawyers are here to say if I'm not saying it correctly. It's what guides democracy. And why? Because so that the rights of individuals cannot be infringed upon. And that is why democracy guides. You know, so that party leadership cannot take advantage of a situation and say, oh, in view of the opposition party, they are not in government, therefore let's deal with them, let's you know, consume them. You know, the constitution, the law will say, no, you can't do that. You know, the law will, you know, put the person on the right track, you know, so that democracy will thrive. That is the beauty of democracy. But what we're having today, we have political deviants, we have political rascals, you know, we just have people who are dead, it talks, you know, they're all over the whole place. And that brings to the question of leadership, you know, because if you are a real leader, you are focused. You know, you should know what the people want. And therefore, your policies should be programmed around the people and not around party loyalists. You know, by the time you start doing that, there's a problem. And let's take example of the former President Goodluck Jonathan. You know, you see that he brought in technocrats. He brought in Ngozi Iweala from World Bank. And when the woman said, look, you have to pay me dollars because I know what I was anywhere. He said, okay, if that will make you drive the economic policy of this country, so be it. You know, because why? He knew what he wanted. You know, he knew that there's an extent of political patronage, but rather he brought in experts. Look at the agricultural man, the man who was Minister for Agriculture. Yes, he was not a politician. Of course. You know, even the one for investment, trade and investment.
It wasn't true.
Yes, it wasn't. You know, and you saw that even when there was a world economy meltdown, Nigeria was able to survive it. Why? Because the experts were there to guide the country. The economic and roadmap of the country have succeeded. And you know, only recently, the United Nations said 43% of investors in Nigeria have decided not to invest in Nigeria again.
Yes.
Nigeria has 43%. When you say, but that's a very high number. And why? This is due there's nothing we can hide in this way. The evidence are everywhere. Why are they saying that? Because the bad word, political and economic environment. Yes. That's why United Nations, those people, they do their own work.
Yes, of course.
Anyhow. Okay, if you look at the poverty level in the world, Nigeria is now occupying the first position. Yes. They've taken over from India. Yes. So all these are indices.
But there are also indices that relate to the ease of doing business. Nigeria recently has also shot up in its rating. Yes, the ease of doing business.
Which ease of doing business?
Nigeria has shot up.
For your information, 21 businesses have led the shores of Nigeria. Because of bad economic.
Those ones who remain are the ones who are not paying taxes. Are the ones who are fraudulent.
Let's even go low. What was the price of rice in 2014 compared to 2019 now? It used to be the best rice was 8,000 naira. 8,000 naira. And people were able to still manage themselves. Yes. But today, what's the price of a bag of rice? We are talking about 17, 18. In fact, it will be 20 something. Yeah. Well, they recently came.
We are still struggling to pay 30,000.
Then if you talk of the exchange rate, which is the basis for import and export trade in this country. What was it? It was 120 something to the dollar. Yes. But today it's 365, 368, and 68 another. So are you saying we are doing well? Unemployment is graduate unemployment 58.6%. Are you also saying we are doing well? Consumer price index has gone up seriously. Like the comparison between prices of goods and what income of the average Nigerian consumer. Are we also saying that we are doing well in that area? What about light power that drives the industries? Are you also saying we are doing well? Or are you saying the trade money they call it?
The trader money.
Election will soon take place in Bayelsa. Yes. And our whole vice president, that respected seat,
going to
also gone to Bayelsa to be given.
Going to market.
Yes, market to be given. Duke, what has brought us to this level?
Okay, so let me pause you then. If you just join us here onto TMI Monday, explain the issues dominating discussions in Nigeria, particularly the problems. Now, gentlemen, are we saying in all of these, hope is lost?
Yes.
Is that what we're saying? Let me get Barrister
if I may say something.
Yes.
You see, I have a very genuine fear about Nigeria, how the country is drifting. You see, those who run the economy down, they are going to be ministers again. And they are perpetrating themselves in office.
There's no evidence that those who are going to be ministers, they run their...
There's no evidence.
Don't mention names.
Don't mention names. There are no evidence.
The evidence, abounds. We know that these people, they did not do well in the last 4 years. There's no, beating about the bush. Now, the reason is because they are unpatriotic. But right now, we are building a new generation of unpatriotic Nigerians. Because to be patriotic, it means that as we are born, as we are growing up, you had good school to attend. You are intelligent, on merit, you get a scholarship. You get back home, there's power supply. You turn the tap, the water is running, you drive on the road. You see, you become, you fall in love with your country. And when you get to any position of authority, you want to ensure that these things don't fade away. Okay. But right now, we are breeding, a generation of angry Nigerians. These are Nigerians that the country has been unfair to, maltreated. Yes. So even those who are very intelligent now, who are in the university, when they come out, before you find anyone that is going to work to better Nigeria, it's going to be very difficult, because everybody is going to any position he or she finds himself with anger, trying to get a piece of the national cake. So if you breed a country, all these countries we are talking about, America, Japan, the rest of them, they want to die for their country because of what the country have done for them. But when you grow up in a country where nobody cares about you, you have a beautiful first degree, for instance, you have to know somebody who knows somebody who knows somebody before you get a job. Once you get that job, you are going to think about how to line your pocket with a public fund. Okay. So that is my fear right now. Until we turn things around, it's going to be terrible.
All right. Barrister Musa Adams here. You said in all of this, there is hope.
Well, Nigerians, we are resilient people. by nature, and we can never be hopeless. That is why we are much more religious than any other country on earth. But like we have all agreed here, there is a general consensus in the country that things are not moving well. We have all agreed. We have all agreed that it's discerning. You can see it. What people fear is everywhere. The country is not moving forward, and we all know it. But the fear I have, how come the president and his handlers are so insensitive to these developments? I'm worried. Is it that they are not aware that things are drifting, that the country is going down? You see, if we are not careful, that is why, sorry to say, if we are not careful, what before this country between January 15, 1966 and December 1970 will be a child's play compared to what will happen, the rate we are going. The president must be made to know these things that are happening to us as a nation, that the country is not moving, that the economy is drifting, that we are confronted with these problems and the problems are not abating. If he knows and he's sensitive, then I will align myself with people, professors and theorists who have come up of late to say that in Nigeria today we don't have a democracy. Mm-hmm. That what we have at best is a civilian government or a
semi-military.
Semi-military autocracy.
Because if we have a democracy, the government must be listening to the people. They must struggle to meet the yearnings, aspirations and expectations of the people. Because the basic ingredients that makes a government, that cooked a government that is democratic, is basically listening to the yearnings of the people, providing for the people, meeting their demands. But here we have a government that's supposed to be democratic. They don't listen. They don't want to even hear. All the factors that should build up our democratic institutions are being collapsed. And nobody cares. And nobody is interested. There is no free press as we speak. You as you are here, you are even scared of what we will say.
People tell us not to mention names.
Have I showed that to you? Have I showed that to you because of the discussion? No, not at all. Because now let me say this. Someone said a while ago that a society that is not governed by the rule of law cannot thrive.
That's true.
Yes. We are also governed by rules. And it's my duty here and now to uphold those rules. Is that the way it is? Yes, so that's
what we are saying, the system is being manipulated to sustain the government in power. And it is wrong. That is not a democracy. By the time you refuse to listen to decent voices, that is not democracy.
No longer democracy.
By the time you cannot meet the basic needs of the people, that is not a democracy.
I mean, why we copied it from advanced.
And we copied it from advanced democracy.
Yes. Teacher don't teach me nothing.
You see, by the time you subvert the rule of law and place it on the altar of party affiliation and loyalty, that is not democracy. In a democracy, the practitioners, the activists must adhere to the rule of law. There must be free press. They must meet the yearnings and aspirations of the vast majority of the people. But today, Nigerians, in totality, are complaining and very bitterly about this present government. And they are not listening. I will say that in a democracy, I want to say it, that the rate they are pushing Nigerians, I'm afraid it will burst. But my advice to them, and I want to say it with all emphasis, without any fear, that they should look back and be good students of history. Those who refuse to listen to the advice, yearnings, and demand of the people in the 60s, they pay dearly for it. They pay dearly for it.
All right, so let's just take a last line of discussion, but it looks like we're set for another break. When we return after the break, we'll talk about the insecurity situation in the country. Of course, online yesterday, I saw a couple of pictures and videos. Wasn't able to confirm how true those pictures were. It was an alleged attack on the Abuja-Kogi Expressway on a bus destination Benin City. Many people were alleged to have lost their lives in the process. But most disturbing is the fact that there seems to be inter-agency rivalry, like we saw in Taraba State, where a notorious kidnapper who was arrested by the police ended up losing their lives. Unfortunately, the notorious kidnapper escaped. We'll be back with you after this short break. Don't go away.
TMI, every opinion counts.
On the last lap of the show, TMI Monday, bit of insecurity is the focus of this last lap. What can be done individually, collectively, for us to stem this ugly tide? Let me begin with Professor Tony Ijewere one more time. That seems to be a major talking point as well.
Yes, you see, when we talk about insecurity vis-a-vis Nigerians and the interests of businesses, you see, it's unfortunate that in the country right now, so many people are killed and by the bandits and Fulani herdsmen. You see, what beats the imagination of the average Nigerian is that perhaps we don't know the magnitude of insecurity, how it's going to affect our business and how it's going to affect the psyche of our Nigerians. Let's take it from the perspective of business, because when businesses come to realize that they cannot strive, they cannot do well under insecure environment, then there's a problem. And what makes some of us, or a lot of Nigerians, very sad is that we know this group of people, yes men, who are involved in insecurity problem in Nigeria. It's only recently when a very top politician from the Southwest, the daughter was affected, you know, that our government, everybody now started talking about insecurity. It is very sad. And the people that are doing this thing, they come on air, they're everywhere, they say, look, we cannot take nonsense as long as, you know, they have problems with farmers and all that, and they will continue to do what they are doing. They've said this severally, you know, and the interesting thing is that none of them have been arrested or prosecuted. It is very sad. But when you see other organizations, and IPO and the rest of them, you know, they are not even as, they are harmless in most cases when they are even demonstrating. But, you know, these people are easily arrested, they are termed terrorists, and at the end of the day, they are banned, and people have been saying, Nigerians have been saying, you declare the herdsmen and terrorists, but the government have just refused. And the interesting thing we heard recently is that 100 billion naira has been approved for radio station for the herdsmen. In other words, there's kind of encouragement. So how do we continue like this? Because the interest of businesses, you know, is at stake, and Nigerians generally, and almost on a daily basis. You just relate a case just now before we ended the last segment. You know, and you know, the government doesn't seem to be doing something serious about it. So are we running a government, a sectional government? You know, so you know, these are questions Nigerians are asking. You know, and it's not helping the economy, it's not helping the people, it's not making Nigerians to feel safe in the country they call their own. It is most of.
All right, Mr. Jimmy, final take.
Well, insecurity is persisting in Nigeria and even getting worse because the criminals are not prosecuted. When somebody commits a crime, you know, if you look at, you know, the criminal justice system in Nigeria, you ought to be arrested, you ought to be tried. If found guilty, you are supposed to pay for it, by way of fine or you go to jail. But what we have is that, the government of the day is applauding and even supporting, negotiating with those that are known to be killers of these people. Fulani herdsmen. Those days, the typical herdsman has just a stick or a staff. Yes. Why can you be heading cattle and you have AK-47? By the way, like I said earlier in the other segment, that is a retrogressive way of rearing animals. If you are doing cattle ranch, you have your pasture management system and the rest of them, they are restricted. Don't you see the cattle? They look, diseased, walking all the way from the north to the south. In fact, historically, animals are located in areas where they have the required habitat. You understand? For instance, I've always said that the purpose of moving these cattle to the south is not just to look for grass. They have underlying, purposes for doing that, clandestine. Because in the south, you have sesefly. Sesefly causes trypanosomiasis to cattle. It's not in the north. And in the north, for instance, is mainly, savanna grassland where you have a lot of luxurious, grass for cattle. Why do you not stay there? Why do you have to come down south where you are susceptible to all these diseases?
In the rainy season.
In the rainy season?
Yes. I mean, in the dry season, they come down south.
No, yeah. Their movement is not according to the
weather.
The weather.
Okay.
It's deliberately designed, to occupy the south. Now, I tell you, for instance, apart from the herdsmen, you see, with due respect to those who are, scavengers for iron, they know the nooks and crannies of this city more than you and I. So when they blow the whistle, they know where to go. So the government of the day must stop supporting these people. The arms are coming through. Instead of the custom officers coming to stay at the Kiadolo, send them back to the borders where the arms are coming in. The arms are coming. You see what happened recently in Taraba State, we just mentioned, where soldiers have to open up fire on policemen who have just arrested a notorious kidnapper, and they remove the handcuff. Now, when that kind of thing happens in a civilized society, even the chief of army staff will resign. Theresa May did not commit any offense because she was not able to push through Brexit. She told the people, I'm sorry, I wanted to do this for you, but the time frame is over. Let somebody else come and try. So until we have people who have conscience, who believe that when they fail, they should leave the place for somebody else to come and try, this insecurity system is going to persist.
All right, Mr. Adams, final word.
Well, you see, it's Buhari did not pretend when he never pretended that he's going to give us peace. Even before
we established that names colleagues.
The president never pretended, because we must tell ourselves the truth, the whole truth, if we must survive this whole marriage. He has shown that he is sympathetic to the cause of the Meyeti Allah, who are considered themselves to bandits and consider these heinous crimes that we are witnessing. The upsurge in crime and criminality, particularly on the highways, is as a result of the cattle rearers who have turned themselves to bandits, coming down south or occupying the highways across the country. And they were able to arm themselves because the crisis in Libya escalated to a stage where they now have to push arms down towards Chad, Niger, and Nigeria. And because our borders are basically porous, unpoliced, anything, even as big as armor tanks can come through the border and enter Nigeria. That's why you see Boko Haram having armor tanks and all that. And because our people don't seem to understand the gravity of these migrants coming down and taking over the forest and the implication, they just allow them to secure themselves in the various communities, and they've taken over the forest locations in those communities. I can tell you this was deliberate, it was calculated, and part of the Islamization and colonization agenda of this government. As we speak now, go to any forest in any part of this state, the Hausa Fulanis, they are there, are very comfortable, and they've created camps. And it is from those camps they now hit the highway, strike, and go back. And even secure the imprisonment of their victims. So what the point I'm making is, if the president wants to solve this problem for us, he should come out openly and declare Militi Allah a terrorist organization. Because we all know that this crime is being perpetrated by these Fulani bandits. We know it. It's not clear that yes, there is no code that doesn't have an element of the rate of crime, but the also now is what we are scared of.
Okay. All right.
So at the end of the day, in finality, the president must be able to take Nigeria as a project that must survive.
Okay, let me get Chief Comrade Patron here.
Not Comrade.
Patron.
Apologize to that.
Yes, okay.
Apologize
because
thank you.
You reminded me on that.
Thank you.
Patron, Patrick.
Thank you.
Final word on this.
Yes. Yeah. You see, I don't want us to concentrate and dwell on this ensign. Yes, a lot of them are notorious, but if you go back to the history, go back to the Bible, the ensign have always been there. They've always been moving their cattle, I think people have really want to cash in, make it politics, and make money out of this ensign. I'm not saying they're not committing havoc. We have a lot of rich Nigerians who can have a private ranches, okay? For example, I've lived in Canada for over 3 decades. For over 30 years I've lived in Canada. I don't even know where my meat comes from, but I do eat meat, okay? So it's not supposed to be a subject of discussion, if not for the fact of retrogression. We are not supposed to be discussing this here. So let us not politicize this issue of ensign, but let us certainly find a way to deal with it. But again, I want to appreciate my brothers who are in the same panel with me that a better Nigeria is possible. I always think about that. That's why I do the little I do, my little contribution. Because J.F. Kennedy said, ask not what your country but what you can do for your country. And that's why I took a step to certain things. Because if you're talking about bandits, you're talking about criminals, talking about this, a society without education is a blind nation. If you want to really reduce crime in your country, you must focus. Ask your government, how much have they put into education? Even in our state here, I've written to you severally. I said, let us debate education. Education is very important. Because if we don't educate the masses, the rich will not be able to sleep. Yeah. But having said that, I also think that you mentioned that whether individually or collectively, we can do it together. I took a step, and today I said, like the professor have said, if you don't have enabling environment, your business will not thrive. Yeah. A lot of our people are not coming to Nigeria today because of SARS. They don't want to come because a lot of people have been killed. We have this extrajudicial killing. But I took a step now. I wrote to the president, I said, this must stop. That I don't know when to start a protest, but I don't know where to end it if it doesn't stop. Okay. And I even, furthermore, I'm doing billboards all over the state to say there must be no extrajudicial killing.
So that's at individual level now.
Of course, and it wasn't that I didn't stop there again. I also went again to support the police. That the police are undermanaged, the police are underpaid, the police must have what they call a retrain. Because most of these people that attract the police are not really interested in police job. They are interested in wearing black and pointing torch and extorting money from people. That's what they're doing. The other police that we had, they were the true police who loved the police, who wanted to police the citizens as we police the police. Don't forget that we are supposed to police the police.
If you are allowed to.
No, that's what
my time is up, gentlemen. My time is up.
They're supposed to police the police.
All right, gentlemen, I want to thank you for your time and the views that you expressed on our panelist discussion today on the program TMI. It's a special edition because today is public holiday. Today and tomorrow, public holiday to commemorate Eid celebration. So once again, big congratulations to all our Muslim brothers and sisters out there. Professor Tony J, we're always a delight to have you on the program.
Pleasure.
And Barrister Pastor Jimmy Osagede, we appreciate you.
Thank you very much.
Barrister Musa Adams, thank you so much. And Patriot Patrick.
Thank you, right.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you. Thank you.
Well, that's our show here today. I want to say big thanks to you for staying with us. Let's re-emphasize that views expressed here, they're not the views of the station. If you have the opportunity to be here, you also have the propensity to express your own views, but we do that within the context of the guiding rules and regulation, like my panelists collectively expressed a while ago, that a society that doesn't live on the rule of law cannot stand, and that seems to be part of the challenges that we are facing today. And something struck me by Barrister Jimmy Osagede when he said, we are building a new breed of Nigerians that are unpatriotic because the society has been very unfair to them. If you don't know one person to know another person to know another person, you can't even gain admission. You can't get a good job. You can't do a whole lot of things. And these people are coming to take over. How would the country be like? How would the society be like in the next couple of decades to come? For us to rebuild Nigeria, the time starts now. I want to say big thanks to all our crew members behind the cameras. Ugbede Ovese, we appreciate you. Bernardo Sama, I will thank you very much. And Musa David, thank you as well for being a part of the program. My name is Sonny Duke Okoson. Thank you for staying with us. Do have a great week ahead. Bye for now.